C2 Wrestling Podcast. The boys are back. CTD, Snowden. We've got the SummerSlam Night 1 t-shirts rocking right now. I'm wearing the GOAT Gunther. You're wearing the GOAT CM Punk. Two guys that we absolutely love. One returns next week on Monday Night Raw. The other, hopefully, returns soon as well. We'll talk about some stuff from Raw. We'll talk about some stuff from NXT. Inva Just kidding. Whatever the fuck they're calling it now. We'll get into plenty of it. All of it's irrelevant, though, if we're being honest. It's playoff baseball right now. Football's going on. I turn on these talk shows and I'm like, why don't any of them start their show the way we start ours? How you doing today, Snowden?
How am I doing today? I am tired today, but it's okay. We get an hour here to talk what we'd love to talk. Wrestling, professional wrestling. As you said, Monday Night Raw, NXT. There's a lot of football, a lot of baseball going on. So there's some greater things maybe going on in our own worlds right now. But we always take an hour once a week to sit down and talk shop. Talk wrestling is what we love to do. So I do want to get into it, you know. The Yankees also blew it, so I don't even want to talk about that because they fucking suck right now. So it's okay. But on the wrestling front, there's a few things. You know, NXT being most prominent right now in my mind as this is being recorded on a Wednesday. NXT was just last night. NXT, as you said, in Showdown, NXT Showdown, a big name change for the TV event, not even a PLE. We're changing it from Invasion to Showdown. Ridiculous if you ask me. Whatever. We're not going to get political in anything here, but you could have fucking kept it. It's not that deep. It's just a TV show. But NXT Showdown is shaping up. Team TNA versus Team NXT. Some matches in between Mustafa Ali, Ethan Page, North American title match. I love the continuity of the Mustafa Ali storyline going into this title match. You know, he never got his title match and he's getting it now finally. He was cut. I think things like that are great. Would I have done things a little differently in terms of TNA versus WWE? Sure. I like the idea of it being basically a Survivor Series style event, you know, a team versus team. Did they mention, is it elimination style?
I believe
I
so.
have to
It has
imagine,
to.
right?
It
It
has to be if
has
they're
to be.
promoting it as Survivor
Survivor
Series
Series. Yeah.
style.
Yeah. A 5v5 too. It has to be. Again, some singles matches and whatnot in between there. Some I couldn't give a shit about, if I'm being honest. You know, I'd rather watch fucking paint dry than Josh Briggs versus Matt Cardona, but that is just me.
Is that announced?
Yeah, not necessarily, but I assume maybe if it's not even going to happen at the event, I assume that's the route they're going to go, you know. But NXT Invasion that was shaping up. How do you feel about the event? How do you feel about the teams? Who's in the teams? You got some NXT stars on Team TNA. There's a lot of discourse there. How do you feel about it?
I've got mixed emotions. I've got plenty of thoughts. Love the idea. Love the premise. I mean, go back to the archives. This is we've
Day
been
one.
we booked a 2-day event for this damn thing.
Yeah.
And then just a week or two ago, we were talking about how they need to do a Worlds Collide of AAA, WWE, NXT, TNA, which I still think's on the table. There's some aspects of this that like kind of interest me outside of the actual show itself, i.e., Joe Hendry and Jordan Grace.
Hmm.
The teams, I have thoughts on both, but I
Hmm.
want to know your thoughts as well. We'll start with the women's
Hmm.
because as my cat's going insane in the background, we'll start with the women's. We might get a preview of the battle that's going to happen. To me, as a yeah, there they go. I think the women on the TNA team, I feel it's so obvious that this was a quick pivot because Masha's stuff. And I don't
Yeah.
see many people mentioning that, which like that is obviously a separate
Hmm.
story in itself. But like a lot of people ragging on TNA's team, Kalani Jordan being on the team, like to me, this is just like quick pivots of obviously Ash probably would have been the team captain, you
Yep.
know, whether she is pregnant, injured, I'm not sure. Obviously, Masha would have been on this team.
Hmm.
Everything goes down with her. I mean, that's half the team right there. That's legit like TNA through and through.
Yeah.
So I understand people's annoyance by it. But to me, I kind of think that's just like, how do we quick pivot and like make a story out of this and, make it compelling? Oh, let's have Kalani Jordan win it and continue these like whose side are you on stories with her, Joe Hendry, Jordan Grace, you name it. So I'm like torn on it, but I think there's a bigger picture with the women that people aren't really talking about.
Yeah, Kalani Jordan being on the team, I kind of like. I think it's great that she won the championship. I think that's an interesting pivot to Ash relinquishing the championship. I understand maybe people wanting it to be all TNA wrestlers. You make it into a storyline, Kalani Jordan's team TNA, blah, 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 blah. There's a way to do it. It's exactly what you said. It's a pivot off the back of the Masha Slamovich controversy and Ash having to relinquish the title. The Masha story, we're not going to get deep into. It's shitty. We'll see. There's really not much else to say there other than it sucks for all parties involved. You hope nothing crazy actually happened. It seems like it did. But what are you going to do? You can't have that person on TV if it went down the way it went down. So she's off TV. Ash, again, like you said, injured, pregnant, whenever it is, off TV. What are the other big name women in TNA right now? They happen to be former NXT or WWE stars. It happens to be the inspiration. It happens to be maybe I had in mind like an Indy Hartwell even, but she didn't quite make the cut. It ends up being Kalani Jordan wins the championship, gets the slot. The inspiration, Mara Saad. I don't even know how to pronounce her last name, to be honest. But
Sade, I think it is.
Sade, yeah, it's got like the little thing over the E. Um, I think she sucks. I'm going to be honest here. I'm not going to hide it. I don't think she really makes the cut if I had the choice. But there's also NXT woman that I don't think should be on the NXT women's team, if I'm being honest, too. We'll get to that in a second. But the TNA team outside of Mara, I'm fine with. I don't really see much to hate in all that. Um, I understand people want it to be TNA woman, but the TNA women's roster right now is thin due to circumstances. There's nothing you can do about it.
And you're not gonna have Tessa in this match because
Yeah,
that would just
yeah, of
make things
course. Yeah,
10
yeah,
times fucking worse.
yeah.
The NXT women is where I have a gripe.
Bigger gripe. Yeah, yeah, agreed.
First and foremost, you have Sade on one team. Why don't we have Lash on the other team?
So I agree because clearly they were a former tag team, and Lash is prominent enough. She's built up a little bit of a fan base. Lash legend. Um, I still think she's kind of on the green side. Both of them are, and that's kind of why I'm not a big fan of Mara. I think Lash has heavily improved and earned the spot on this team. If it wasn't going to be up against Mara, maybe not. Maybe there's somebody else you can fill in Lash's spot. But being that it is up against the former Jakara Jackson, why not? Why not fill that slot? With the woman, though, there's other big names. So I guess it's a little tougher. Where you got, obviously, JC Jane makes the cut, NXT champion. Sol Ruka, North American speed champion. She's very prominent, makes the cut. I'm almost less upset that Lash didn't make the cut and more upset that Jada made the cut and Lola made the cut. And I know Lola especially is a little bit more prominent than even Jada Parker is.
Lola, I get.
I get it. Yes,
Yeah,
I'm just not a big Lola fan, is
me
what it
too.
is.
But
That's
I
why I'm not
understand.
on the sub, but I understand it. Yes, exactly. I'm choking right now. She's prominent. She's all over AAA. I understand why that made that choice, but look at the NXT woman that didn't make the cut. I mean, you could have thrown Fallon Henley in there with JC Jane. You could have thrown, I don't know, Jordan Grace in there. She was TNA. Now she's NXT. Like, oh, you turned sides. You're a turncoat. You know, Blake Monroe doesn't find herself in the mix. I get it. Like, maybe some of these girls have other things going on, but I don't know. Jada Parker, especially, I don't understand. She's got some controversies of her own that I'm not even too familiar with, but I see some stuff online about her that, like, whatever. Besides all that, Jada Parker just doesn't click for me. I don't understand, like, why she gets this heavy push. She got a win over Lash Legend. I think it should have went the other way around, and Lash should have picked up that win. I think that's a more prominent wrestler to push for the fandom, but whatever. She made the cut.
I mean, look, we shoot it straight here.
Hmm.
Jada doesn't do it for me, man.
Doesn't do
She
it for me.
doesn't. Like, look, no, don't get me fucking started. You know how I feel about the fucking
Fucking
LeBron,
hate it.
the
Hate it.
LeBron high step.
Yeah, hate it.
Drives me insane. No disrespect. I mean, look, she's still in NXT. She's still got plenty to learn. It's
Hmm.
not even like I watch her and I'm like, oh man, she's horrible. She'll never get it, blah, blah, blah. I just watch her and I'm like, I feel nothing.
Nothing.
I have no connection. I don't know what it is. It just doesn't do it for me. And there's
Yeah.
still time. Like I said, she's in NXT. It's not like I'm like, man, she's main eventing WrestleMania. Like I get the position
Yeah.
she's in, whatnot. I personally like story wise, Lash makes way more sense
Hmm.
in that aspect. But on top of it, like JC Jane, a heel
Hmm.
who just like, yeah, Miss Parker, you impressed me. Like, what about your own tag partner? Like, I feel like, storyline wise, you should be like, no, fuck Miss Parker. I want my partner in it. Like,
Yeah.
my partner's got my back. Like, I don't get that at all. So the women's match, like, I get it. Like what I was talking about, there was these hurdles essentially that have been added for the TNA side. It just like they set up those teams, and I was like, I am whelmed. I'm
Hmm.
not underwhelmed. I'm not overwhelmed. I'm just whelmed.
This little mini TV PLE comes pretty quick. I guess they had it planned on paper a while back, but hey, it's in 2 weeks. It wasn't, hey, this comes in a month and a half. It would have been cool to see if like maybe they could have filled one of the TNA women's slots with like a TNA women's legend. Maybe somebody could have stepped in and fucking throw Mickey James in there or
She's going to the Hall of
something.
Fame in
Yeah, yeah,
a week and a half,
exactly.
whatever.
Like maybe there could have been a way to do something like that, but they're not going that route. That's fine. Um, the
Gail
match is
Kim,
gonna.
people would have loved that.
Oh, really would have loved that right now. Big time would have loved that. Actually, they probably should have aired that one on Wednesday on TBS, and people would have loved it
Yeah.
even more. Um,
Shout
Gail
out
Kim,
Gail.
yeah, shout out Gail Kim. Listen, I'm not taking sides, but I'm on your side, Gail Kim. Okay. Uh, the women's match again, though, like you said, Jada Parker, and this is I wanted to reiterate the point on Jada because it's Jada's probably a fine person. We get it. She's in NXT. She's green. She's learning. She just doesn't do it for me. There's all sorts of wrestlers that just don't do it for me. It's not just a women's thing either. I mentioned a little earlier, Josh Briggs doesn't do it for me. I just don't. There's nothing there. He's a fine talent, I guess. Never has gotten over with me. Don't need much more out of him, if I'm being honest. Maybe it could change one day. You never know. It's been done in the past, but there's a multitude of wrestlers that are just bland.
I mean, I have an issue if everyone pretends that they like everything.
Yeah, 100%.
Like,
Yeah, you can't just like everything. And there's
yeah,
so many of these. We sit here on YouTube doing this, but YouTubers, podcasters, TikTokers that like will just pretend to like things for the fandom, to
they'll
get
do
clicks, to
they'll
get
they'll go
likes.
either side. They'll
Yeah.
pretend to like everything or pretend to hate everything
Yes. Yep.
instead of just calling it straight. Like if I like something, I like it. If I don't, I don't.
Hmm.
I'm going to be authentic in myself. These specific things or specific people, I don't have any click to. But we have proof through our podcasts. That
Hmm.
does not mean that I will never give someone a chance or never change my opinion. I admittedly wasn't crazy about Lyra. I
Hmm.
was like, she just doesn't, I don't get it. Like,
Yeah.
whatever. Like when she was in NXT, I was like, she does nothing for me. Has like a pretty popular following, but I don't know. Now I fucking love Lyra. I'm like,
Yeah.
Lyra is great. And I want Lyra. I love the stories with Bailey. I love her being a former Intercontinental Champion. I'm like behind Lyra. She got me in. And on the flip side, I could be in on someone and they can lose me.
Hmm.
That's the authenticity. Anyone who pretends that they like everything or hate everything, that's where I'm like, all right, get your clicks, whatever.
Yeah.
If that's how you want to do it, fine.
And also to that point, voice your opinion. I want to hear people's opinions. Don't force it or make up an opinion just to be different. Like I want to hear what you really think. As you said, you weren't crazy on Lyra. There was a long period of Lyra being a little bit more bland to me. Like they weren't just doing the right thing with her. She had a little bit of like a UK run though too, and I seen some of her UK stuff when I was watching it back in the day. So I was a little bit more familiar maybe with the talent that Lyra had. So like I was always a little bit higher on her, but even for me, it was like, I don't know, it's just not clicking right now. Recovered tenfold. Lyra's one of the best women going in the business right now, really. And, younger, fresher talent. She'll be around for a minute. Can Jada turn it around one day? Maybe. Do I think she's going to? Honestly, no. I don't think she's ever really going to click with me. I don't think Josh Briggs is ever really going to click with me. That's fine. That doesn't mean I hate these people and I want bad things to happen to them. I don't professionally wrestle. They're better than me at it because I don't do it, you know? But that doesn't mean I have to love them for doing it and the way they do it.
Josh Briggs has one of our favorite matches we've watched together.
Yes, he does. Yeah, triple threat. Josh Briggs, Obafemi, Dijak.
Yeah, like
It was a great match. I can't argue that. Was you know what? Credit to Josh Briggs.
yeah,
Credit
he
to
was
Josh Briggs.
fantastic in
Yeah,
that match.
fantastic in that match. Yes, he's had other good matches too. Don't get me wrong. It's just the character he hasn't gotten over. It's been a couple failed gimmicks, things like that. Whatever. Jada maybe has been running this one character, but I'm just not bought in.
We'll flip over to the men's side because there's some things I like and don't like on the men's side.
Hmm.
The biggest story uh, is obviously on Team NXT. You have the TNA champion Trick Williams, and the captain of Team TNA is Mike Santana, the guy going for the championship. Now, I'm not gonna lie. We have mentioned Mike Santana's got to win the title off of
Has
Trick
to win the
Williams.
title.
Has to win the title. I almost am upset at the timeline of this all because with this story of team versus team and Bound for Glory being so close to it, I'm like, well, Team NXT has to win. Team NXT, I mean, internet's going to go ablaze. I know, whatever. Team NXT has to win to further establish they got to get the title back for Team TNA. Like to help juice
Mm-hmm.
up Santana's win. Because if Team TNA wins, I feel like you're almost like, I don't want to say you lessen it a little bit, but how if Team NXT won and like Trick Williams cheats to help them win or something along those lines? Like, I need to hammer it home that TNA is struggling and Trick Williams is this ultimate heel that has their title.
Hmm.
If they win this close to Bound for Glory, I'm like, kind of lessens it for me. Where I'm like, Santana's win doesn't feel as big as it should be. So that was like my main thing right away. I love Trick being on Team NXT.
Me
I
too.
love Santana being the captain of Team TNA. I love Joe Hendry being excluded in this whole story. But my main takeaway was people are gonna bitch and pretend big bad WWE is fucking over TNA again, but Team NXT needs to win.
Yeah, Team NXT needs to win. I never really considered the thought of Team TNA winning because I think Team NXT is going to win. Nothing against Santana or the boys on Team TNA, but on paper, Team NXT is the team. You got obviously the NXT champion, brand new NXT champion, Ricky Saints, who just beat Oba Femi for the championship. Ricky Saints ain't eating a pin for a while. He ain't eating a pin until he loses that title. So therefore, he might be the last one standing. Team NXT is walking out with the win. I love Trick Williams, champion of TNA on NXT. His whole story is he's been bringing the title to NXT, so it only makes sense for him to still be on Team NXT. And then you got Javon Evans, Miles Bourne. Javon Evans, the future star of NXT. Miles Bourne, of WWE, really. Miles Bourne is definitely on the come up. Him and Javon Evans are kind of like the next two faces of NXT for a long while. I love Miles Bourne. I think he's been great, actually. So I'd like to see him get that spot. Could it have been a couple other guys? Obviously, there is no Obafemi. Call up probably imminent. I'm fine with that. That's okay. Could this have been the final send off for Oba? Sure. Do I need it? Not really. No, I think you can give that spot to Miles Bourne instead of it being Oba. I would have liked to maybe see, I think a Jasper Troy could have been fun. Just like another random, fresh NXT LFG name. Could have been a little different, but I like the men's team on NXT. You obviously got Santana, has to run the team TNA. Kazarian, international champion. Moose has been like the staple of TNA for a while, and you got the X Division champion Leon Slater. Leon and Javon Evans teamed up. Hell, eventually they really should be a fucking tag team and win tag gold at some point. They were great together, but the teams make sense to me here. Team NXT has to win, though. Maybe you can get Miles Bourne and Javon Evans get pinned, but for the purpose of Bound for Glory happening fairly soon after this, Trick can't get eliminated from the match unless it's some screwy elimination, but then that more like sets the precedent that Santana is gonna win. And then again, Ricky can't get pinned after winning the belt off Oba for a while. It's kind of a similar way to, like we said, how Cody beat Cena at SummerSlam. Cody can't just lose to a single finisher here on out. You take the belt off Oba, you can't just get pinned in a non-title tag match a week later. So, Team NXT.
One thing also, you have Javon and Leon Slater facing at Bound for Glory for the X Division
Hmm.
Championship.
Hmm.
I think they nailed the men's match. I
Hmm.
think they
It's better on paper than the women's match for sure. Yes, but the
not only
women's match
that,
again has the Team TNA has stuff to it.
but look, you and I will think about things logically. You're
Hmm.
not going to have this person, you're not going to have Oba in because you're not going to have him be the sole survivor, and you're not going to have NXT, him be your winning pin. You're not going to have him get pinned as well. So you're
Hmm.
going to keep him out of the match. Hell, he might take Ricky Saints out or whatever, and that's how Ricky Saints gets eliminated. Who knows? I thought the TNA and NXT men was spot on. I
Yeah,
think everyone makes sense. Everyone has been involved. The only one that would have been like, oh, maybe this person should have been in the team would have been Ethan Page, who has a
correct.
title defense anyway. So there
Uh-huh.
you go. All makes sense. On the TNA side, I think it's the perfect mix. You have the future champion in Mike Santana. You have the young star in Leon Slater, who I should add, WWE is 1,000,000% going to pluck as soon as they can. Like, he's on,
He's
yeah,
already got the
yeah,
contract signed. Yeah.
he's on the Joe Hendry path already. He will
Yes.
be. Then you have like as OG as it gets in Kazarian,
Hmm.
and then you have a multi-time champion Moose, who's pretty much been like a.
TNA staple.
People are gonna hate this comparison, but he's been like the Rollins of TNA for
Yeah.
quite a bit. He's
Hmm.
been around, multi-time champion,
The workhorse.
the workhorse. There's the like
Hmm.
he's been like one of the workhorses of TNA. Hasn't left. They've had some great guys like Josh Alexander that have had their great moments, but Moose has been there for a hot minute. I mean, Moose Cody was in TNA when Moose was in TNA. Like he has
Yeah.
been there for a hot minute. Kazarian obviously been there damn near since they started.
Yeah.
So I think they nailed it, man. And I think the only way this gets fucked up is if they had Team TNA win. And
Agreed.
that's not like a NXT has to win because NXT is better, whatever. I'm a fucking TNA guy, man. If we're gonna pay this story off right, and we're doing it so close to Bound for Glory, morale's got to be low heading into
Yeah.
Bound for Glory. They got to. I don't just want Mike Santana like, damn, we lost. I want the entire locker room being like, this is the fucking guy that's supposed to save us, and we just lost with him at the helm. Like, I've got no confidence in this big moment. He wins it in their biggest pay per view, PLE, whatever the hell you want to call it. I love it. I really do.
Mm.
And people are going to shit on it because they could have made this NXT Legends, Finn Balor, Sami Zayn, you name
Hmm.
it, whatever, versus TNA Legends, AJ Styles, whatever.
Yeah.
They'd still fucking complain. It doesn't matter. There
Yeah.
was people that no matter what they did here, there was going to be complaints. But I think they've got this spot on. And honestly, I think the biggest mistake, I don't want to say mistake, but the biggest bummer of it all is that it's just on NXT instead of being an actual PLE where it's
Yeah.
every match gets more time, there's no rushing. We can kind of enjoy it a little bit more.
Yeah, I do think the timeline of things with Bound for Glory makes them do it now, where it could have just lined up with Survivor Series. It could have been the PLE you attached to the Survivor Series weekend, and you have it themed like Survivor Series. You call it Invasion instead of Showdown, and you can do it any which way you want. Maybe storylines wouldn't have panned out the same. Santana would have been champion by then. Trick is maybe no longer in NXT, so it would have all been different. I get it, but being that it is happening just before Bound for Glory, I understand why they're going this route. I loved everybody coming out to the ring and them having the cross the line theme. That was great. It was a great little touch to it all. It's intriguing. I'm looking forward to seeing where they go with the kind of crossovers after this whole Showdown TV special, whatever you want to call it. As you said, Team NXT has to win, and that is okay because Team TNA, technically Team TNA, is winning tag team gold. The Hardy Boys not only are going to, they fucking better, as I look right down my mic, they fucking better take those tag titles off of Dark State.
I know you're trying to push Dark State as, these heels,
Hmm.
whatever. This is not a they win this match and I'm going to boo them because I don't like them because they beat the Hardys. They win this match and I'm like, fuck them and fuck you. This is too much. I don't have any interest in them. I still don't have any interest in them. Them beating the Hardys, this is nonsense.
Nonsense.
It 1 billion% has to be the Hardys.
Hmm.
If they lose to Dark State right before this Hardys Dudleys one last time match, whatever, that to me is it's not everything, but it's not nothing. If they lose to fucking Dark State right before this massive match,
It's comical.
that it I genuinely I think I would have to be like, you know what? People of Twitter who are bitching all about this, you're right.
You're
Like
right.
the
Yeah, no,
it
you're
like
right.
the,
Yeah.
it's the fucking the meme like the worst person just said
Yeah.
something whatever the fuck it is. That's literally my reaction. Like, you know what? To all my haters and doubters, you were right.
You
It's
know, and
like
I don't
that's the
care that
reaction.
I don't care that there's four of them in Dark State. I don't care if it's an interference or this or that. There's no reason, no way they should be beating the Hardys, especially not only to beat the Hardys, but then they're TNA tag team champions too. No fucking way. It would be truly, and I understand like people view NXT here and then it's like SmackDown and Raw and like everything else is above that. It would be my least favorite booking decision of the year. I'm pretty sure. Maybe I got to think back and there's something else prior to this that I was not a fan of. But Dark State retaining the championships, winning championships, and beating the fucking Hardy Boys in one go does not sit right with me. Dark State is again, we talked about Jada, we talked a little bit about Josh Briggs. I don't got anything against these four guys. I like a couple of these guys even. I think Deion Lennox is good. I like Sugars. Cutler's fine. I just they don't do it. They're not clicking. The faction doesn't click. It would be better to disband them and do something different with all of them.
This is a prime example though of if you do too much too quick, you lose people. Like, and
Hmm.
it's tough to recover. We love Theory. We've always liked
Yeah.
Theory. Under Vince, they were doing too much, too
Yeah.
quick, too often. Not saying Dark State they have this ceiling that Theory did because people like to rewrite history, the revisionist history that we've talked about.
Yeah.
People looked at Theory as like, oh, this is the next John Cena. This is the next big time player in WWE, the
Hmm.
next face of the company, whatever. And they did too much, too quick. Dark State beating the Hardys, that's too much.
It's too much.
That's
The
you
Dark
lose
State
me.
being NXT tag champions right now is too much. I understand the NXT tag division is hurting a little bit. Hank and Tank taking the titles off Fraxium even back then. Fraxium was a tough team to beat at the time. I don't know if Hank and Tank were even quite there. And then you got Dark State winning the titles. They needed some tag teams down in NXT. Uh, you don't have them. Put the titles in the fucking Hardys then. Why not? You have the option to put the titles in the Hardy Boys. You got the Hardy Boys now on weekly TV on the CW. That's going to boost your ratings, right? I don't think Dark State winning this match does anything for anybody, especially considering Team NXT wins the men's match. The women's match can go either way. JC Jane probably can take an L more than maybe Kalani can right after winning the belt. So I
I
could,
think the women, the TNA women,
yeah,
I think it
TNA,
splits 2-2. TNA
yes,
women
yes.
and the Hardys, NXT men, Ethan Page.
Ethan Page. Yeah. Now, on the topic of Ethan Page, I love the idea of Mustafa winning the belt. I think that's actually great, but it's hard to interrupt this current run that Ethan Page is on. What he's doing with the championship, the North American Championship, Canadian flag. It's just great. It's great stuff. You got to kind of have him lose it to the right guy at the right time. And Mustafa could be that guy, but it's hard to break up that kind of title run to really like an impromptu title match. Tavion maybe is the guy down the line. Maybe another name pops up here or there. You got Dockner Wagner looking at the belt from AAA. Maybe it is a AAA guy that ends up winning it. But I think there's a story to be told with Ethan Page losing the belt that isn't going to be told in a week with Mustafa, unfortunately.
Yeah, Ethan Page needs to be going to AAA with that title.
Hmm.
There's so much meat on the bone with even more than Dr. Wagner, whatever they do plan on doing. I love Mustafa. I mean, look, if they gave the title to Mustafa, I wouldn't be like upset that he's champion. I'd be upset that they did it this way, this time, you name it. So I think it's gonna be a great match. Don't get me wrong. Like I'm all for it. I was hyped to see Mustafa back in
Hmm.
NXT. I love the continuity, as you mentioned, getting the title shot that he was promised, that he earned, and he never got. Yeah, perfect. And it's also a guy, Mustafa. They very easy can have Ethan Page cheat in a multitude of ways, and Mustafa Ali is going to be just fine. Like TNA has him built up pretty well that losing to Ethan Page is not going to hurt him in the slightest because Ethan Page is obviously pretty damn big for NXT.
Yeah, I mean Ethan Page. I've been saying it since that guy signed. This is one of the best heels in the business right now, all around. SmackDown, Raw, NXT, TNA, AAA. It is getting to a point where you call him up soon. You got guys like Oba, Trick on their way as well. That's kind of like the next class of call ups. Oba, Trick, Ethan Page, JC James probably in there somewhere. Maybe Fallon Henley follows her. Probably the next class of call ups, and then your other stars start to shine down in NXT. But you might as well ride the Ethan Page North American title run out while you can. Again, bring him down to AAA with that belt. It's been great. Mustafa can win the belt, just not right now. Maybe there's a story to be told there with Mustafa, but he also doesn't have to win clean, Ethan Page. You can have him get some screwy finish. Maybe Chelsea comes out and does something. Who knows? Whatever. You can have some sort of finish where maybe it sets up some sort of story again for Mustafa.
Now, I don't want to go back too far onto the tag title match, but this did kind of spark in my brain. I don't think all these matches are going to have, not clean finishes. We talk when we do predictions, we're like, "Oh, but if they have if there's a dirty finish here, there's probably not going to be a dirty finish here and
It's
probably not
like
a
on
dirty
a
finish here, whatever."
it's like on a multiple choice test. You're like, I
Yeah.
answered A here, so this
Yeah, yeah,
can't be
yeah.
A. It's got to be B, C, or D.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I've done three C's in a row. So
Yeah,
this one, even though I feel like this one's C,
yeah.
I'll make this one C and
Uh,
go two up and make that one back to
Yeah.
B.
Or you ever get to like that third question where you're like I'm positive this one's B, but I chose B three times, so one of these is wrong, and I fucked up, and you got to go
Yeah.
back and find the answer.
Yeah, it's pretty much what I just said, but okay.
Yeah.
I would love, I know they mentioned the tag titles like, oh, there's, you know, no one's getting involved. You name like it's gonna be clean, whatever. We need a winner. It feels like it'd be a missed opportunity though. You have four members of Dark State. And this ends with the Hardys winning. But maybe the ref gets knocked down, whatever, and those other two are getting involved. And the Dudleys come out to even the odds.
Yeah.
Like that just feels like that's a moment, a missed opportunity where the Hardys win, and maybe the Dudleys are even the ones to grab both tag titles and hand them over to the Hardys and have that moment of these are yours for now, but that tables match at Bound for Glory, whatever, and that's your ending shot. The Hardys and Dudleys facing off. It's ultra promo for Bound for Glory. It helps NXT. It's gonna be a viral moment, like viral amongst wrestling. I think that's the money shot to end. Like that's the way it should
Mm.
go down. I know they said it's gonna be clean. There's gonna be a winner. It's fucking wrestling, okay? That doesn't mean everything.
Yeah, it's fucking wrestling. Yeah, I mean, just to double back on it, the Hardys got to win, one way or another. The Dudleys come out, lend them a hand, maybe that's a cool moment for the crowd. The Dudleys have both been involved in TNA and NXT and WWE, so it all makes sense. Um, I just don't like Dark State. I want them to lose. That's really what it comes down to mostly, is that anybody winning the belts off of Dark State is better. I hope it leads to not Dark State continuing. I hope it leads to a slow dissolve of Dark State. Again, split them up, break them up. I think all those stars could be better on their own, maybe in their own tag teams, factions, different routes. I think we're just wasting time by continuing Dark State at this point. I think it's pretty evident it's not quite clicking.
Yeah, so there's definitely interest. I'm hyped for this show next week. You
Hmm.
can even make the argument, even though I was like, oh, I'm pissed this is not a PLE. Well, now NXT on Tuesday is can't miss. This is a must-see show, weekly show for the ratings, whatever. Fine. But on Monday, we did have quite the eventful Monday Night Raw with Roman Reigns' return. And we didn't have you on the Raw recap show. I Sakoa'd it because you're going to be Sakoa'ing here for a bit while I'm on my adventure, whatever the hell we want to call it. There's just something about Roman. I mean, we've both said it before on this channel. When he shows up, it's just like, man, this is a star. When
Hmm.
Cody came back, I had the same feeling because it was the first time in a while that we had a few weeks without Cody. But man, it's just different when you get Roman Reigns coming back. Like, just the pop is different, the feeling is different, the aura is different. I love this story that they're doing. Like, it's crazy that we had what, like 5 years of the damn bloodline story, pretty much.
Yeah.
4.5, 5 years roughly. And this is a new avenue that feels completely fresh.
Yeah.
This is
Yeah. I
this
mean,
this, this is what they're talking about when he said, we're only in the bottom of the third, whatever.
yeah.
This it feels like we just had a bit of a rain delay and we're picking it
Yeah.
back up and it's only the top of the six.
Yeah. I was just going to say, we might even be calling this the top of the sixth in a couple of years. This isn't even the ninth quite yet. Hell, there might be extra innings in this game. I don't know. Maybe they revert the runner on second rule too, and it's a longer extra innings. Who knows? You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah, it's old
it's
school. It's
yeah,
playoff
old school,
baseball.
yeah, old school playoff baseball. Yeah, it is. Roman Reigns, first time ever return. It's never happened before in the history of wrestling. He returns on Monday Night Raw. I get it. I keep seeing a lot of how many times can this guy return? Blah 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 blah. That's why they do it, because it is different when Roman Reigns is around. You have him on every week, it's not as different. He is an accommodation to wrestling, I should say. He is like
A
he
commodity.
well, I was going to kind of put it towards Brock Lesnar, the other one that is was part time for a long stint of his career. There's the John Cena's of the world, which obviously are, again, next level superstars, but I almost view John Cena differently as I do even Roman, especially considering John Cena's on this whole retirement tour. You know, Brock Lesnar would pop up once every couple months. It'd be some electric, in quotes, return. He'd show face, he'd body slam some people, suplex some people, hit an F5, and he'd leave. And Roman is kind of doing the same thing. He's showing up, spearing, Superman punching, having a match or two, and he's leaving. A little bit more story involved with what Roman has got going on. Really, anytime he comes back, he bowed out only a couple weeks ago. It's not like he was out 6 months this time around. So it's not some, wow, this guy we never thought was going to come back. We knew it was going to happen eventually. A little bit sooner than I thought, sure. I thought they might hold off for another week or two. So it makes me wonder if they're going to squeeze something on to Crown Jewel regarding Roman. There was another match made official for Crown Jewel. We got Rhea and Io versus the Kabuki Warriors. So it looks like 1 to 2 more matches maybe make the card. So maybe there is a slot there for Roman. Does he travel all the way to Australia? I don't know. We're what, a week out from it, week and a half out. So it's a little bit soon to book something, but I can see them wanting Roman on the card because he is, again, a fucking superstar. He's a megastar. Roman is the biggest thing going, really. Cody can have that title, and Cody is the guy. Don't get me wrong. They're neck and neck in a way, but it is different when Roman is around.
Are there 4 matches on Crown Jewel right now?
Women's tag, both Crown Jewel matches, Styles Cena.
That's the only 4, right? I
I
think that's the
believe
only
so.
4.
Yeah, I believe so. And then maybe something Roman. Again, we said it last week. I'd love to see Priest and Alistair get on there.
That's a great point.
Oh, and
And
the
I
Raw
mean,
tag titles, though. I want the fucking tag titles.
yeah, that's a
It ain't
fucking
happening.
yeah, that's yeah.
Wishful thinking. Yeah.
That's
What tag
it.
titles? Yeah.
We don't even need to fucking get into that right
Yeah.
now. I would love for a six man, you know,
Hmm.
the Bloodline versus the Vision, and the Vision gets a new member. Um,
I'm indifferent. Keep
you know,
going.
we'll touch on that in a second. The main story though is what they've been doing with Jey Uso, this new side of Jey Uso, Roman coming back, not just to save both the Usos, but to just like really get it into Jay. Like, you're doing everything right. I believe in you. This is what we talked about. You name it. And Jimmy's got that skepticism. It floats us back to the early days of the bloodline. It's exactly how it was, where Jimmy wasn't sure on it and Jay was trying to convince Jimmy, whatever. And they're trying to get Jimmy to buy in again, but this is a completely different way that they're trying to, and the story is completely different. I'm watching. I mentioned in the Raw recap show that I want to see Jimmy versus Jay again. I feel like they can right a wrong, for lack
Hmm.
of better terms, as Tommy has just got me in a blender again. Like, dude's staring at the window. He wants to go in. His brother's staring at the window too. Like, what are we doing here? All right, there we go. We finally jumped up. Uh, I would love to see Jimmy versus Jay again. I'm also not opposed if it doesn't happen and they just continue this story of whatever they're doing. It has me the most interested in Jay and Jimmy to an extent that I've been in a while. And we have been big supporters of Jay. When everybody was shitting on Jay, we still yeet. We get it. We love the guy. Like, but we said he could use a few weeks off, and we didn't get that. But we got the next best option where it's a completely fresh story for him, a complete change of direction. And now it's like, all right, I am excited for what they're doing. This feels different. This feels fresh.
Yeah. It does feel fresh. It's still like main event of Raw, Vision, Jay, Jimmy, Roman, interruption, this, that, whatever. It is still kind of the same in that sense, but the storyline itself is a little bit more fresh. Regarding the potential matchup, six man, I can see it happening. Maybe even at Survivor Series, if not Crown Jewel. Roman, Jimmy, Jay, the Bloodline reunites minus Sami Zayn to take on the Vision. Bronson Reed, Braun Breaker, Seth Rollins is already in a match. He can't possibly be the third member. The Vision gets a new member. I have an idea, but I want to hear from you first. Who's the third member? Who would join the Vision?
Come on, man. I've said it since the jump, bro. I have said from the jump, Tony D makes sense. People are too focused on what he was in NXT and thinking that's just how it's going to be. First off, getting called up from NXT never means that you're keeping your same exact character, hell, keeping your same name. To me, I look at Tony D, I was pretty much over the mafia boss
Mm-hmm.
story. Like, I liked them, but I was, it had run its course on me. I'm like, all right, I don't really need this anymore. The split with Stacks, they could have run as a tag team a little bit longer. They didn't, whatever. I was like, all right, I don't need the mob boss story any longer. The Don story. You see him with Braun Breaker, and they clearly have this great relationship, fishing nonstop. I think we kind of like, maybe it's his attire, maybe it's because he's always in a suit. I don't know, but Tony D's a fucking unit. Like,
Unit. Yeah.
he's a big dude.
Big boy. Yeah.
He could easily get that slight repackaging to where if he wants to keep the accent, he can keep it, whatever. But he rolls up with Braun Breaker and Bronson Reed in those suits. He's fitting in, and it might look a little weird to some after, at the first few weeks, but it to me is like the perfect person for it.
Yeah, I mean, I get it. I don't think Tony D needs like a full gimmick change either. Maybe he loses the hat. maybe the accent, but he still wears suits. Like I don't think wearing an all black suit is that much of a change. I think maybe the ring attire would need more of a change than anything. Maybe some sort of theme music. Their theme is really a Braun and Bronson mashup. I don't know if putting the Italian Don music just behind it really does much for the faction, But Tony D, I get it. That it does make sense for it to be Tony D. I still stand firm on not wanting another member of the Vision. If it were my choice, there wouldn't be a third member. But they need a third member, at least for a night, to take on the Usos and Roman. I think it should be LA Knight. I don't think he should join the Vision, but I think LA should like answer that call. Maybe there's a segment backstage of Heyman, I got an idea, and maybe we don't see anything further from that. Or maybe he sees LA Knight backstage and says, let me talk to you, just like LA Knight would say, and then they don't give us any more from there. But, you can kind of presume. I think, at Crown Jewel, you got Rome and the Usos come out, and then Bronson and Braun come out, and then LA's music hits. I think that's a pop. I don't think it's the craziest thing that could happen, but I think that's a pop. I think it adds a little bit of a layer to the LA storyline they got going on right now. A little bit of tension between him and the Usos a little bit. I don't think it means a full-blown heel turn for LA Knight, but I think it can help inch us there, and I think that's a good thing potentially for LA. Again, I got to reiterate, I don't think he should join the Vision. He shouldn't be teaming up with Seth, Braun, and Bronson all the time. It really should just be a one-off, maybe kind of get a lick back type thing, but I would almost prefer that. I still am very indifferent on a fourth member of the Vision. I see it happening at some point, though. Tony D is probably the guy. I can't, if they're going to add a fourth, there's really just not any other, like, logical names. It's a fourth. She doesn't fuck count. Yeah, Tony D. Tony D could be the fourth, but there's just not another. Again, there's not another logical name that would be the one that makes the most sense. Are people gonna react well enough to Tony D? He was a good name in NXT. I enjoyed Tony D. You enjoyed Tony D. He wasn't Braun Breaker in NXT though. He maybe didn't have that prominent enough of a role. There might be some heads if he comes out that are, oh, who is this guy? There's going to be the names of people, or there's going to be people that watch NXT and go, oh, that's Tony D. But then there's going to be people going, who is this? And then they got to run the packages. They'll get people familiar with Tony D. But is he big enough to just outright join the Vision like that?
That's why I think he's perfect, because I've held firm that that last person has to be like a notch below them. Look, I
Yeah,
love Tony D, but
he does.
I'm not going to sit here and pretend that Tony D is the same level right now as Braun Breaker or even Bronson Reed, especially not Seth Rollins. He could get there. To me, he is that fourth guy. He is that solo Sokoa of the bloodline,
Hmm.
where he's not bigger than the Usos right now. He's not Roman, but he's got all the potential in the world, and he slots in perfectly. And when they're in the multi-person match, yeah, he can eat a few of the pins, but then he's gonna have some where he gets the pin and it elevates him, whatever. And now he's across from Roman Reigns in a story. I think he's the perfect guy in that aspect. My worry would be he joins and he is literally the only guy who ever eats a pin. Like he is literally the like Braun Breaker is at that level right now. Bronson Reed's up there. Like we just need someone to always eat the pin. That would be my worry for him, that they put him in that fourth slot and treat him like he's that fourth slot.
Well, I think in the thought of adding a fourth guy to the roster, the idea would be that they don't lose from there on out. They got that
Yeah.
little bit extra muscle and they pretty much go on a win streak for a long time where Seth is still champion for a bit. He ain't losing outside of some bullshit DQs. Braun and Bronson better take those fucking tag titles soon. And then their champions not losing. And Tony D's kind of their muscle. Tony D is going to fit in that slot of really maybe not being in matches outside of the tag matches for a while, but maybe he becomes that singles guy between the four of them, maybe gets an IC title down the line or something. I've always liked Tony D. I liked the Mafia gimmick. I liked him and Stacks and even adding Luca to the group and everything. I thought that was cool for a while. I kind of wanted them to run that out. I thought it fit. But Tony D was down there long enough where if you're going to keep Stacks and Luca, you got to call Tony D up. You got to get him out of there one way or another. So why not break it up? Let Tony go on his own. It's been a while now. Tony's been out a while, so sooner rather than later, maybe Survivor Series, maybe by then or at Survivor Series, there's a big moment coming. Typically happens on these PLEs. Crown Jewel Survivor Series, it's got to happen by then if it's going to happen.
Yeah, see, that's why I feel this could literally just be on SmackDown or Raw, like these next two shows, where it doesn't have to be this ultra massive thing. To me, he can kind of just slide in pretty quickly, and the wheel kind of keeps on spinning with them. I don't know if I need him to be, you know, at Crown Jewel, the one who helps Rollins beat Cody, or at Crown Jewel, the one who helps Braun Breaker and Bronson Reed beat, whatever. Like, I don't think I need him to be that. He literally could show up on Monday in just a main event of Raw or whatever, and that's fresh enough where it's like, all right, they switched up a little bit. This guy's finally involved. And hell, it could be just a week before, and boom, they make the match official on Twitter later that night, like they love to do.
So I have a thought. I had a thought during the middle of that of how they could do it, where I don't want the Vision to have any tension. I like the stable. I don't want
Agreed.
any thought of them breaking up anytime soon. They had some Braun and Seth tension in the past already. They had some recently where, like, I'm not a big fan of that, but you can continue the faction with continuing the slight bits of tension. Eventually, Braun Breaker versus Seth Rollins is going to happen. It's going to be a power struggle. That's clearly like the long term storyline. Seth Rollins, he's got his crown jewel match. Obviously, takes on Cody Rhodes. What if that becomes almost official? Bronson Reed, Braun Breaker taking on Roman and the Usos, and Bronson kind of go to Seth and Heyman like, we're down a guy, and Seth's like, I got a fucking match, figure it out. So Braun, Seth walks off screen and Braun goes, I got a plan B. He's got his own plan B this time, and he gets Tony D in, and then he kind of indoctrinates Tony D into the group. And Tony D is in the Vision, but he's kind of Braun's guy. And, maybe that just causes another one of those little rifts of tension between Seth, Braun, Tony. Bronson's involved in there too. I think that's maybe a clever way to bring Tony D in rather than Seth just laughing, haha, I got another one. They can do that too. Don't get me wrong. Seth is kind of that character, but I think that adds a little bit of a layer to bringing Tony D into the group. Adds, again, a little bit of tension. Tony D can prove his worth to Seth, which he will, and then they become a fully formed faction until the eventual breakup. But this is, again, all wishful thinking. Tony D might just fucking debut on SmackDown and never touch the Vision. We have no idea.
Yeah, if anything, I think it's almost necessary that Tony D is brought in not as Rollins' idea.
Yeah.
This past Monday, they were, harping on Cody mentioning Brock Lesnar and Paul Heyman introducing Brock Lesnar and said, "Oh, yeah, trust me, I do make all the decisions, whatever." Like, maybe that is a Braun Breaker and Paul Heyman. They make that decision, and Seth's in the ring in a promo with Cody, and he's like, "Yeah, yeah, I make all the decisions." And then later in the night, there's a segment backstage where you see Seth arguing with Heyman in the background or something, or Seth's on the phone with one of them saying like, I didn't approve this. What the hell? Whatever. And, to the public eye, he's trying to confirm, no, 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 this was all my decision, whatever. It can be that just sprinkle of, I don't want to say friction, but that sprinkle of, oh, there's some tension going on here. So when they do win as a group, it's like, oh no, they're tight now, and
Mhm.
they're about to start really running the show. And Braun
Yeah.
and Bronson are going to win the tag titles, and Tony D is that extra man, and maybe he gets an IC title. Or, maybe in the same night, it's Braun and Bronson beat Finn and JD, and Tony D beats Dominic Mysterio. Now you're getting Tony D booed out of the fucking building, beating the guy that everybody
Mhm.
loves. And then you're doing work on the Judgment Day story and that potential split, and hopefully getting the fucking tag titles on more shows and in more matches.
So,
Topic
let
again for another day.
definitely a topic for another day. Let me ask you though, if you're gonna have Tony D join the Vision, right? Again, there's a little bit of a gimmick change there probably for Tony D to do so. What do you have him wear? What's the in-ring attire? The guinea tee and like, the mob slacks, the
So
track pants ain't gonna
I
cut it.
I think he could wear
You throw him
like
in a singlet
like
like Braun
no,
and
I think he
Bronson.
could go like guinea tee and like I don't want to say like black jeans, but like not tight pants.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
he could still rock like a guinea tee and, you know, some sort of pants. Like I don't want him.
It's hard to picture him wearing like the Matt Hardy tights, when Matt Hardy
Yes,
changed the tights,
yeah,
like
the key lock.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
no, like I'm thinking like he's got to lose the suspenders.
Yeah, you gotta lose this. That's what I mean.
Those
Like the hat and the suspenders gotta
they
go.
got to
Yeah, yeah.
go. But to me, like the guinea tee still fits.
The guinea tee is so different from the Vision, though, is the way
If
I look at it.
real is it though?
Yeah,
Like
it's
a guinea tee? I
yeah.
think
That
that's kind of like a
I don't think it fits. I think that's part of like it fits Tony. Don't get me wrong, but I think that's like part of the like Italian gimmick. If you're gonna get rid of it,
make it
I think you
black.
get
There
rid
you
of it.
go.
I guess. I don't. You look at Braun and Bronson got similar gear now too. They're both wearing singlets, which is just coincidental because they were
Yeah.
never always a tag team. But now they got the matching colors and everything too. So you gotta match Tony D up a little bit at some point down the line. I don't think Tony D is going to be wearing a singlet anytime soon. But I don't know. Maybe you just have wear like fisherman overalls, because him and Braun are always out there fishing together. I don't know. Guinea
What if
T,
it was like, you know, Vance Warner, is that his last name? Vance
yeah,
Warner. You know, like the top that he wears, where it's like
yeah.
it's kind of like overalls, but not. What if it's like that with like kind of like Lance Hoyt type pants? Remember
Okay.
Lance Hoyt?
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
where it's like it's not the guinea tee, but he's still wearing like something that's
I,
close, and he's not wearing just like tights, but he's got actual pants where he could still kind of fit the faction.
yeah, I can almost I think like what I picture is almost like shirtless, but like shield type pants. Like old school Roman shield
Yeah.
type like pants, cargo pants
Yeah,
almost,
those
just
dude,
black them out.
if you wore those
Yeah.
pants
hmm
with a black guinea tee, I think he fits in
The
perfectly fine.
the black guinea tee is definitely better than a white guinea tee, yes.
Yeah.
But I don't know if the guinea tee is that necessary anymore. I don't know if that's as needed. But unless he wears like a Damian Priest type that replaces the suspenders, he wears like that kind of top under the pants.
That's what I was talking about for Vance Warner. Like that's like the
Yeah,
same
yeah, yeah,
thing.
yeah.
Or that's at least what I'm picturing.
Yeah,
Trying
yeah.
to
That's yeah.
trying to
That
explain.
that could work, I guess. But it's definitely a little bit of a change coming for Tony D. Does this come to fruition at all? Again, this is
It's
all
gonna
just
be so
spitballing, but
hilarious when
yeah.
on SmackDown it looks like a fucking Italian festival and he comes out and
Yeah,
he's just
yeah,
going he's answering
yeah,
fucking Sami Zayn's US Open
yeah.
challenge
Or they do
and
go
he's fucking yeah
yeah,
like
they it's either that or we are right and they're gonna go full gimmick change, but he comes out wearing the pretty deadly top and he's the
yeah
third
yeah
member of the
yeah
group or something.
it's just like a complete fucking like
180.
when
Yeah.
Cross fucking all of a sudden was wearing that head
The
gear
fuck yeah,
whatever.
yeah.
It's like, oh, all right, we were on the right path, just
Yeah.
we took a wrong turn somewhere. No, I do think that is kind of the next guy. Now, I think one last interesting aspect of it, because I know you're in the boat of this faction doesn't need another person, doesn't need the fourth or fifth person, whatever you want to consider it. Yeah. Uh, what I'm more on, not more on, Moron. What I'm more on is, does it feel kind of quick? Like, have they, especially if Becky is a member of this faction, does it feel kind of quick to be adding another member? Or is this like Survivor Series is coming up and we want them to all together now because this faction isn't going to be a faction for 5 years like the Bloodline, whatever? It's got that like, I can't tell if it feels too quick to add that extra member, but I also can't tell if like if they wait much longer, if it really makes that much of a difference to me.
It might not be too quick because how long is the faction really going to last in the grand scheme of it? You know,
Yeah.
factions don't typically go as long as the Judgment Day has gone or the Bloodline had went, you know? So like if you don't do it now, you do it in 6 months, but then the faction only lasts 4 more months after that, you know, maybe it's not enough time. Things always change. Whether you include or exclude Becky, you know, it's the women in any all men stable for the most part is a little bit of like a side note. You know, Nikki Cross in the Wyatt Six. What has Nikki Cross done in the Wyatt Six in this entire time? Ivy Nile with American Alpha and the Creed Bros or whatever. You know, like what has she really done? You know, inside that faction, the only faction is the Judgment Day, really, where the women have had very prominent roles from Rhea to Liv to Raquel and Roxanne, and they've indoctrinated it well with the Judgment Day. Don't get me wrong, but not every faction needs to be this like mixed group of people. I understand they're married, so it makes sense on paper, but whether you include or exclude Becky, I don't think that makes it the wrong timing to add a fourth member if you're going to do it. I do think it would probably be now or never, I'd more so say. Maybe Tony D could be the reason why they finally do fucking win the tag titles. Maybe that's it.
Yeah, as you were talking, I was kind of thinking as well why it feels more logical to just do it now is when you think of like the Judgment Day, you think of the Bloodline. When those factions were going, like you could see multiple iterations of those factions carrying on, and that's why they've gone for so long. Solo's bloodline, completely offspring. They obviously still have Jimmy and Jay and Roman, whatever. The Judgment Day, this is literally like Judgment Day 3.0 at this point. Like, yeah, pretty much 3.0 because from Rhea to Liv to Roxanne and
Mhm.
Raquel, whatever.
I mean, you look at like the Damien
But
era, you know, there's like
yeah,
Damien and Rhea, and then it goes out with them,
yeah, before
Raquel and
Finn even
Roxanne.
joins, like all of
Mhm.
that. So it's like those you can see, oh, they can kind of add people, remove people, and this faction can kind of prolong. The Vision, it's not one where I'm like, I mean, I guess in theory, in a year from now, they could boot Rollins and Braun Breaker as the leader. Like, in theory, they could. I don't think that's going to happen because I think at that point he's going to be at such a level. To me, this is a faction that, like, it's going to have a run of these members, and then that's it.
Yeah.
Like then they're done.
Yeah, I think too, just to add on to that real quick, I think the Vision moniker ties so closely to Seth that say they did boot Seth at a point, you can keep it going and have it be Braun's faction, but it would have to get a name change even at that point. You know, it can't just be this rerun of the Judgment Day.
Street trash.
Street trash.
Love you, Fanbug. Good lord, thank God that wasn't a thing. Before we go on the topic of Rollins and the Vision, whatnot, did you see the part one Rollins Cody? You know,
Hmm.
enemies, whatever. We're clearly getting these couple parts. You saw that, correct?
Yes.
I watched that and I was like, man, this just furthers to me. I get it. I think Cody's going to win again and they're going
Yeah.
to add on to this. But this just furthers to me that like bigger story of Seth versus Cody where I'm like, I hate that we're getting this at Crown Jewel. They're doing this video package and I'm like, this could be the fucking Mania main event. Like, this is
Yeah.
how fucking big it feels. Like, ah.
Hmm.
But hey, maybe this is just that, second to last chapter and it's that, extra little seed and then we're getting to the finale of their long multiple year story.
Yeah. I don't hate it as much as I hated Cody Gunther or Cody Orton because
Agreed.
those you're truly wasting a matchup in the storyline. This is just another seed to the overall story of Cody and Seth. Again, I'm not thrilled about it, but it is another seed to it where Cody Gunther, you had no fucking reason to run that match if we're being honest, especially it being the first crown jewel ever because you just had to do a different PLE. You didn't have to do a fucking crown jewel, but whatever. They'll add it to Cody's wins. Hopefully, if Seth wins, my opinion might change a little bit, and it will all be for nothing even more. For that reason, Cody has to win.
Completely agree. Cody needs to win just below, not just below how much the Hardys need to win. The Hardys need to
Yeah, the
win.
Hardys need to
Yeah.
fucking win.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, okay. It goes. Cody needs to win. Hardys need to win. Dark State needs to lose. Is really
Yeah.
what it
Hold
is.
on.
Yeah.
It's Team NXT needs to win. Cody needs to win. Hardys need to win. Dark State needs to
Yeah.
lose.
Yeah. It's the
That's
best
the
way to
pecking.
put it. Yeah.
That's the pecking order. That's the wrap on the whole show. Subscribe if not, you are a
Coward.
catch you guys next time.